Paul, I think the last time I saw you, I was eating pizza in your kitchen in your house in LA. It has been way too long. Welcome to America's Dance 30 for the first time.
Well, first of all, good to reconnect. And that pizza was good. Remember that?
It was so good. Thank you for having us in your house.
You're more than welcome anytime.
Now, we're going to be getting to know Paul Oakenfold a little better coming up. I'm going to ask you a question you have possibly never been asked before. And, of course, we're going to talk about your new smash, Masquerade with Two Lot. Congratulations on this new hit.
Thank you so much. Yeah, a lot of work's gone into it. Sat down with a great team of writers. Malachi, you may remember, who wrote the big hit Move for Adam Poulter, was in the mix and came up with a great song. Big fans of Two Lot. Reached out to the guys, got them on the record, and we're up and running. So appreciate your support.
Absolutely. Well, I can't wait to dive more into it coming up. But first, let's get to know Paul Oakenfold a little better with Finky's Firsts.
Yep.
Now, I love finding out the origin story of artists, and I don't even think that we've ever had this conversation. I know that you got into music at a really young age, but then you were also studying to be a chef when you were younger. When you were growing up, was music or being a chef the first thing you wanted to be, or was there something else you wanted to get into?
No, I mean, you pretty much nailed it. My father was a musician in a band, and my mother was a cook. So I grew up in a household of music, more music, and food and more food. So it was a natural progression for me as I learned to play the piano and guitar. And on the other side of the fence, I was with my mum in the kitchen cooking.
Well, Carrie brought up a good question before you hopped on. We were eating pizza in your house. Like I said, why were we eating pizza when we could have had a nice meal cooked by you?
Because I'm lazy and pizza was easier.
And it was so good.
Yeah.
Now, I know early on in your music career, you had multiple names when you were first getting started, and you had multiple partners as well. But when you finally decided to go solo, was using your real name your first choice for your artist project, or were there other names you were considering?
No, I didn't want to use my name. I was producing, remixing under various different names. I had hits under Grace. I was Virus. I was Rise. I was Wild Color. I was uncomfortable with it being Paul Oakenfold. I signed to Maverick, Guy O'Siri, Madonna's label, and out of the UK was Mushroom Recordings, and both labels were like, "You got to use your own name." So I did. The record companies insisted, and you know, when you're working alongside a team that are working hard on your records, then they want, and they have got good advice and understand how the record industry works. They thought it was better, and it was. You know, I'm DJing live everywhere, and then it made sense to put the music out under Paul Oakenfold if I'm playing live as Paul Oakenfold.
And isn't it crazy looking back? Like, when I was doing research, I didn't realize that Paul Oakenfold was your real name because it is such an iconic name now.
Why would I ever want to put out music under Paul Oakenfold? It's a mouthful, unless it was my real name, right? I mean, you know, I was born with it. I might as well use it.
That's so funny. Now, I thought the lore of Paul Oakenfold was that you kind of got your fame by being Madonna's DJ. I didn't realize that you were U2's DJ way before that.
Yeah, I've toured with Red Hot Chili Peppers, Lenny Kravitz, obviously the two you've mentioned. I've done a lot in that space. So when Madonna signed me to Maverick and I was producing her, and then she asked me to go on the tour, it obviously made sense for her. She was the boss, and I was like, thank you so much. But yeah, before Madonna, it was U2. I toured with them on a world tour, done a bunch of remixes for them. Great guys. I'm very fortunate and lucky. I learnt a lot from these people, and I try and take it and put it into my world. And if I can give back to artists that I sign to my label, then that's the obvious progression for me, and I enjoy it.
Absolutely. And you've been playing all over the world. You just recently played EDC Vegas. You're on tour right now with other legends, the Crystal Method, which is incredible. But do you remember your first time ever playing for a crowd?
Well, I'm from London, born and bred. So first club I played at was in South London, 300 people. Yeah, and I do remember it because it was a wonderful moment where I could share my taste in music. Because I was in a band when I was 19. The band weren't that good, but that was what it was. And I turned to DJing, and DJing it really is an expression of your taste, and that's where it starts. And we've all got a little bit of DJing in us, and I love the means and the way of expressing myself through music, through artists I love, through tracks I found, new artists I come across, and that's what led me on this path to, I suppose, be becoming a DJ and being traveling around the world and making music now comfortably and sharing it with people and yeah, and clubs and cities around the world.
Well, speaking of your music, besides your latest smash, Masquerade with Tulot, you've got some iconic songs through the years. But do you remember the first dance song that made you fall in love with EDM?
No, I
On to the next
Brian, I
one.
don't remember much. You know what I mean? There's a lot gone on in many years. I mean, yeah, I mean, my my musical roots actually was I started in the jazz funk space. I mean, I as a as a young man going to a record store in England, and I was buying imports from labels like Prelude, West End. Remember, I was working for Profile with Run DMC. I was also club promoter for Def Jam. This is all in the UK. So I was very much into. I worked alongside Public Enemy, Beastie Boys, LL Cool J with Def Jam, Run DMC with Profile. And then when I was at Champion, I was signing Salt and Pepper, Jazzy Jeff, and the Fresh Prince. So that's really are my roots. Out of that, dance music started to appear. But before hip hop, it was, of course, disco. I went to Paradise Garage. I went to Funhouse. I was listening to Frankie Knuckles, Larry Levan, David Morales, John Jellybean Benitez. I was the kid in the crowd listening to these guys and loved it. So my roots are disco when I was in New York, and then hip hop, and then Ibiza came, and that's where really house music became popular and dance music, as you mentioned, EDM. For a better word.
Yeah, and I mean, I think back to like the era that I got into dance music was like Josh Wink, Higher State of
Yep,
Consciousness,
yep.
Lustral, Every Time, like beautiful, not only tweaking, but also beautiful female vocals.
I love
So,
that Lustral track.
yeah,
Maybe I'll dig that out and play that again.
you're welcome.
Thank you, sir. You better remix it and I'll play it for you.
Nobody needs that.
Well, you never know.
Now, outside of music, what is something that you geek out about, that you nerd out about? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Well, it's film, and I explain why. I've dabbled in. I've scored a bunch of movies actually. That's how I ended up living in LA. Um, and so I'm always a big fan of film, big fan of documentary. That's my downtime, is to cook a quick meal and sit in front of the TV and watch. And I always listen to soundtracks. It's my big love is soundtracks. Hence why I've done a lot in that space, and I've learnt a lot from fellow composers who I admire, and and a fan of.
That's amazing. Well, finally, in Finky's first, you just did a post recently celebrating, I think it was 8 years when you went to Mount Everest and hiked it and played a set for charity,
Yep.
which is insane. But if you could play anywhere tomorrow, where would be the first place you would want to play?
Oh, wow. What a question's that? Um, somewhere, somewhere that would shed light on um, situations, and I'll tell you what I mean by that is global warming. I think it's important to make people aware of what's going on in this world. And with Mount Everest, we raised nearly $100,000 for charity. As for Stonehenge, the Galapagos Islands. So these kind of unique places that shed alternative light on a place is important to me. And places where we can support and help, the local community. So with Mount Everest, when I played base camp, we donated through raising money to a lot of people who live on, Mount Everest is a national park. There's people who live on that mountain, the Sherpas, their families, there's schools for kids. So we raised awareness and a lot of money. So I would go down that route rather than saying a festival, a club, or opening for a band, something that sheds light on places that need help and support.
I love hearing that because there are so many places that
Yeah.
do need help.
And we're in the position to do it, right? So why not?
Yeah, that's incredible of you. Now let's totally switch gears. Let's talk music again. This smash Masquerade with Two Lot. How was this song born?
I was working in the studio with a production team called the Wavies. Great guys. We met up with Malachi, who I mentioned was on the wrote the smash hit "Move" by Adam Porter a couple of years ago, and we came up with this song. Um, we felt it worked really well. I'm a fan of Two Lot. I did a remix for them last year. I love their song with Aloe Black, so we reached out to the band and were like, "Look, is this of interest?" They loved the song, and I felt it was a good collaboration. So between a new band and a lead singer and myself, and it's worked out really well. So thanks for the support.
Absolutely. Now, how long ago did you guys start working on it?
Uh, a good beginning of the year, let's say February, March. We kind of really nailed it. But yeah, it was finding the right voice on it that worked for me, and working with guys that I really admire and felt they're a new band, they're a young act, and I wanted that collaboration between someone who's new on the block, and I think it worked out really well.
It definitely did. Now, something I love to find out is how many different versions there are of songs from when you start working on it, all the
But
tweaking
there's
that
a
goes
few.
on.
Yeah, there's a few. Trust me. I mean,
So,
you start with my process is I'll start with an instrumental. I'll play it out to see if it works as an instrumental. Tweak it, make sure it's right. Then go in the studio and put down a vocal on it. Then arrangement, structure. Play it out again. See what works. Go back in. I think a lot of producers have their own process. That's mine. Um, and then I peel that off and start making alternative mixes. So there's an up tempo club mix that I play out in all my sets. Then there's a radio/ streaming version that I'm sure you've got that works really well, brings out the song, and it's great for those platforms. But the club mix, which I play, is completely different. It's up tempo and banging.
now, forgive me for asking this question that I don't know, but is this your first foray into Afro House?
Yeah, I've been a fan, and I've been a fan of this space, and I've been doing certain shows. Like I played for IMS, the big conference in Ibiza in May. I did a Afrobeat set. I mean, anything that's melodic that touches me is really my sound. Hence why I've worked with bands. Hence why I've worked with rappers from Ice Cube to Pharrell. I've worked in all these spaces, but my sound is melodic. And Afrobeat, I played many sets, dropped many tunes, and I like it. So I wanted to try something. I did, and this is it.
Yeah, and still one of my all-time favorites is your remix of Dirty Vegas, Days Go By, and that was a breakbeat track.
Yeah, exactly. That was breakbeats. And look, the wonderful thing about England and living in London and growing up listening to all kinds of different music. In the UK, you have Radio 1 on and you're listening to pop next to rock, next to reggae, next to dance music. So your influences are a lot wider. So I've grown up in that space and I like working with all different genres of music. Hence why I ended up remixing from the Rolling Stones and Michael Jackson to Ice Cube. You know, you get asked to do these remixes of different genres, but my mixes are all very melodic.
Yeah, and you've had such an iconic career. Congratulations on this latest smash, Masquerade.
Thank you so much.
Now, before I let you go, I asked ChatGPT to give me a question that Paul Oakenfold has never been asked before, so we got to test this
Here we
out, all
go.
right?
All right.
I know you've been asked a lot of questions through the years. What's the closest that you've ever come to missing a show for a completely ridiculous reason?
Okay, so the closest I've ever come, which was a very big show, I was DJing at the Winter Olympics. At the time, it was held in Salt Lake City. A story that you can understand, and I'm sure a story that many of my colleagues have had. The flight was delayed. So I ended up landing from London to Salt Lake City. Usually, the process is you go to the hotel, you shower, change, have some food, downtime, and go to the show with your suit, with changed and your music. Well, none of that happened. I got off of an 11-hour flight. I had to go straight to the venue with my suitcases after not changing, and I had to walk on the stage literally with my suitcase and my record box and put it down and actually DJ'd after 11 hours and never showered, and I just made it. And the most important thing here is I made it. At the end of the day, maybe I smelt a little and I was tired, but who cares, right? I made the show, and that's the most important thing. But and because it was the Olympics, it was massive that can you imagine if I missed it? Wow.
Oh, that would have sucked. Thank God you didn't. Well,
Woo!
Paul, it is so great seeing you again. You know, it's been awesome hanging out with you when you've been in town playing at Shepherd's, having me MC for you.
That's right. Remember
Hanging,
that?
absolutely.
We
Hanging in
cleared
your
the
house in
floor.
LA. We totally did. You know, there was one time that I have a vivid memory, and I don't know if I've ever told you this, but it was one of my early days at Miami Music Week. I was walking through the hallway of a hotel to go out to the pool, and literally just passed by you in the hallway, and I'm like, was that Paul Oakenfold? You're just such an icon, Paul. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for your time.
No, thank you for your time, and I appreciate it. And look after yourself, buddy. Get out of that building before something goes wrong.
An earthquake is not going to hold me from talking to Paul Oakenfold.
There you go. I love that.
I want that to be the headline. Brian
Yeah.
Fink dies in building talking
Oh
to Paul
God, don't say
Oakenfold.
that. Yeah, exactly.